Virginia State Senator Richard Black has long been an outlier on the spectrum of American politicians' public opinions on the fight against ISIS. I spoke to him earlier about Turkey's role in the matter, U.S. strategy, and our alliances.
You know, Turkey is the most loyal ally that ISIS has. Turkey has developed a war trade with ISIS that is that's very important to them. You can see from the map here, ISIS, the main supply line for ISIS comes through a gap in the Turkish-Syrian border, and it goes directly to Raqqa and then on into Iraq. Recently, the Russians attacked the oil supply for the first time. Now, the United States has allegedly been involved in a coalition. Most of the coalition members have not dropped a bomb in 3 months, but somehow we failed to target this tremendous stream of oil tankers, and in a single day, the Russians destroyed 500 oil tankers. Some say as high as 1,000, but whatever it is, it's definitely in the hundreds, and it has very much angered the Turks because the Turks have made an enormous profit, apparently 50% profit on each shipment of oil, and as they draw stolen oil from the Syrians, then diesel and gasoline flow to the ISIS forces in Raqqa, which is the capital of ISIS, and go on into Iraq. So that is their supply line. Now, if you notice the green portion here, this is the Turkish-Syrian border, and the area in green is the area that was occupied by the Kurds. Now, you recall the very heroic battle at Kobani that really inspired the whole world. Everybody was cheering, "Come on, Kurds, let's go." Well, the Kurds not only won the Battle of Kobani, but they spread beyond there, and they began to seal the border with Turkey. They were on the verge of pinching this ISIS gap, and that was the point at which Turkey rushed to the coalition, to the U.S., and said, "We want to be part of the coalition if you will simply create kind of a no-fly zone in there, and then we will bomb ISIS." They launched 300 airstrikes almost immediately. 297 of those strikes were against our Kurdish allies. So what they have done is secured this area for ISIS so that the ISIS supplies can continue to flow. Now, not only do they get oil, yes, go ahead.
Real quick I wanted to ask about the downing of the Russian jet by the Turks. Where does that come into play? You've got plenty of, obviously,
yes,
plenty of military background in this and strategy, et cetera. Let's talk about the downing of the Russian jet by the Turks and why.
Sure. Well, here's the reason. There actually are two gaps. There is the ISIS gap, but also Turkey supplies Al-Qaeda and all of the Al-Qaeda affiliates. And I could go through all the names, but just suffice it to say they all are affiliated with Al-Qaeda. The area where the jet went down was this tiny finger of land. It's about 1 kilometer across, so that you or I could jog across that distance. You can imagine a jet aircraft flying across. You're talking about just a momentary crossing of that. Now, that's if you accept the Turkish version that there actually was an overflight. If there was an overflight, it was a matter of moments. They claim, "Oh, well, we warned and warned and warned." Well, you can't warn and warn and warn when an aircraft is only over a piece of land for seconds. I'm not sure whether there was a brief overflight of this tiny piece of land, but one way or the other, there was no excuse. It was a clear act of aggression. It was an ambush of the Russian jet. There was no justification whatsoever. And Russia had worked with the United States as head of this coalition and said, look, we're going to share with you our flight data so that there are no incidents. The United States knew where that jet was going to go, and yet somehow that information was not transmitted to the Turks. At least that's what we're supposed to believe.
Well,
but there was no excuse for downing the jet.